Hello, dear friend. Thank you for visiting this small corner of the world at the end of your day. Tonight, before we drift into sleep, I want to invite you on a journey through memory and emotion. Take a deep breath and let your body soften completely. Outside, the November wind whisks through maple trees that have shed nearly all their gold. On the pavement, a single leaf spins once before coming to rest, as if it too is weary after a vibrant season. Inside a small suburban home, the kitchen light has been glowing since dusk. Can you smell the rich scent of warming butter? Can you hear the soft click of the oven door or the gentle, comforting bubble of water on the stove? Thanksgiving begins in these tiny moments. It's the rhythmic tap of a knife against the cutting board, the hurried footsteps of a son reaching the front door. In the living room, the TV displays the giant balloons of the Macy's parade, but deep in the kitchen, every heart is focused on a single special meal. Out there, airports are humming like giant hives. People are racing under yellow terminal lights, followed by the tightest of hugs at the arrival gate. Everyone is afraid of being late. Late for a meal where if one person is missing, the empty chair at the table feels like a silent ache. When a grandmother calls to ask, "Will everyone be home this year?" The question is simple, yet it carries a profound longing for wholeness. But have you ever wondered what history lies behind this reunion? Why do we need a day to return home and give thanks so deeply? Gratitude in North America did not begin with warmth. It began with the bone-chilling cold of 1578. Imagine Martin Frobisher's fleet trapped among the towering icebergs of Nunavut. According to the journals of George Best, there was no laughter, then only the sound of cracking ice and sheer terror. When they survived, they held the first formal Thanksgiving with salt beef and hard biscuits. It was the gratitude of those who had just wrestled their lives back from the grip of death. The Canadian Museum of History marks this as the first seed of thanks, the moment humans realized how precious life is after the blizzard clears. Further south in 1606, at Port Royal, Samuel de Champlain wrote of a colony dying of scurvy. He founded the Order of Good Cheer, a desperate attempt to use joy as a shield against death. It was the indigenous Mi'kmaq people who taught them to use cranberries as a life-saving medicine. From the very beginning, gratitude was the thread connecting two different worlds. But the most haunting story is that of 1620 aboard the Mayflower. 102 souls wagering their lives for the freedom of faith. Governor William Bradford described moments where the ship nearly snapped in two amidst the storms. When they finally reached Massachusetts in November, they faced a winter harsher than any nightmare. Bradford called it the starving time. 2 or 3 people died every day. The survivors buried their loved ones in secret, planting corn over the graves to hide their weakness from onlookers. They stood there in the frozen forests, looking toward the horizon with a quiet faith that the seeds planted over those graves would sprout and a new life would begin. In the spring of 1621, Squanto appeared the only native person who spoke English after escaping slavery in Europe. He was more than a translator. He was an envoy of life. He taught the Pilgrims how to use fish as fertilizer and how to plant native crops they had never seen. When the autumn turned gold, according to a letter by Edward Winslow, they held a 3-day festival. Chief Massasoit and 90 Wampanoag warriors brought deer to the feast. However, research from Plymouth Patuxet museums reminds us this wasn't just a pure friendship, but a strategic alliance. 2 weakened nations leaning on one another to survive amidst hostile neighbors. Yet history is often jagged and raw. The kindness of 1621 did not last forever. As waves of settlers arrived, possession replaced respect. Only 50 years later, King Philip's War broke out. The settlers attacked and burned the villages of the very people who had once saved them. This is why many Native Americans view Thanksgiving as a symbol of betrayal. They mark this day as a national day of mourning, a time to remember that beneath the warm story lies the loss of land and culture. So why do we still keep this holiday? Look to the year 1863. In the darkest shadows of the American Civil War, Abraham Lincoln needed a symbol to heal a broken nation. He chose to tell the story of the 1621 peace rather than the massacres that followed. Lincoln used gratitude to teach us that even in our darkest hours, we need a reason to give thanks and sit together. Back in our modern kitchen, a mother tells these parts of history in a soft voice. To be grateful, she says, doesn't mean forgetting. Gratitude can walk hand in hand with the truth. When we are brave enough to see history from all sides, our gratitude runs deeper. The meal is served. A father says hesitantly, "I'm grateful my mother is still here to ask if we're all coming home." A hush falls over the table, a silence that touches the most precious thing we have made it through a long year, and we are still here. We are still together. There are faces that, if we don't look at them closely, now may one day only exist in photographs. Thanksgiving reminds us of the difficult journeys back, returning from the storms of the ocean, returning from war, and returning to ourselves after the pressures of modern life. The story of Thanksgiving ends here, but its echo perhaps still warms your room. You see, gratitude isn't just for when we have everything. It is the strength that carries us through the storm. Tonight, you don't need to worry about tomorrow. You have done so well today. Cherish your own breath. Cherish this peace. Let your mind be as light as those late-season maple leaves slowly drifting down and falling into sleep. Sleep deeply. In your dreams, I hope you see green fields of corn, the warm glow of a fire, and the tight, welcoming embrace of coming home. Good night, and be at peace.